Right, hello everybody. Oh, I just had to drink some water there. Right. So, I've been working on this plugin for past 10 days. Um, and I'm ready to release it. Wow, crazy. So, this is an input handler I made. It's a paid plugin, first of all. I'll just get that straight out of the bat. It's a paid plugin. And it aims to help you set up actions quickly. So like if you press a button and it does an attack or opens a door or something, it aims to do that quickly. Right, so this tutorial is going to be about the interface. I am going to make an example. I've got some example UI here. I made this very quickly. It's just pretend it looks pretty, okay? But if you want to read up on what all 16 functions do, it's all in the documentation here. So you can have a click through, you can read what everything does and all that, alright? So that's cool, documentation's up here. This plugin may receive updates for like bug fixes or maybe quality of life stuff, so this is not final, but it's like very close to being final. Okay, so updates are not likely in like the next few weeks or month even. All right, I just want to get that out there. So to start off, I'm gonna deploy the system straight away. So this system does need script injection, but I learned from my previous plugin. It doesn't need script injection to boot up. It only needs it when you click deploy and when you try and edit like band inputs and that sort of stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna hit deploy. You don't have to. You can edit your stuff and then hit deploy, but obviously for the system to work, you have to deploy it. So you gotta click that. Alright, okay, so we're gonna go through the actions menu first. Okay, so we've got no actions at the moment, so I'm going to create 2 new ones by just typing in the name into the search bar and then pressing enter. Now, as you may have noticed, I can actually search for actions using this as well. And I don't have to use capital letters, I can just do lowercase as well. So if you want to quickly find an action, then you can find it like that. Now, you can actually rename your actions just by clicking on the name here. So for example, if I want to add an underscore, I press enter, renames the action. Wonderful. If I make a change and maybe I don't want to save it, then I can click away or press escape or something. Just don't press enter and it will reset. So cool quality of life thing. Sorry about the coughs. Right, so we're going to go ahead and assign some inputs. So this is the input assignment panel or menu or whatever. So you use scroll wheel to go through all of these different diagrams, and you can click on the buttons on screen to assign those inputs. So for example, I want action 1 to be assigned to F, and I want it to also be assigned to button X on your controller. Now, I have not split up the controls for VR and console, so this is all mapped to the Xbox controller just like it is by default on Roblox. So if I click on X here and unassign it, you can see that it's also unassigned on the Xbox controller. But it's I just thought it was cool to see like what the inputs look like on here and all that. So this here is your list of assigned inputs in order. So when you're making customizable inputs, the order does matter, and so you can control it from here. Say I don't know, I assign like a bunch of these random buttons or whatever. and I'm like, you know what, I only want these top two, I'm just gonna delete all of the other ones. Okay, so you can do that. You can also click on this little text box to manually assign key codes, so left alt, for example, or left shift, or maybe you want right shift or something. Or, you know, this is here in case there's like a key code you want to assign, but it's not actually on the diagram. So, yeah, that's there for you if you need it. You can, like, put in whatever you want in here, because all inputs and actions are represented as strings. But, you know, obviously nothing internally will trigger whatever. Like, there's no whatever key. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and edit action 2. So as I flip to action 2, you can see that F and X are still highlighted, but they're kind of like half transparent. So you can see what all of the actions, what buttons all of your actions are assigned to in the same panel. So you just get better understanding of how your inputs are laid out and all that. I think that's pretty cool. And right, so I've now assigned my inputs. You can assign any number of inputs, by the way. Like I can assign another B, another A. I can assign Jake. Just kidding. I can, you know, I can assign any number of inputs. But obviously, I don't want that for this example. So we'll just keep it at 2. Okay. Now this doesn't save automatically, so you got to click the button here. Ow. Okay. Right. That was the actions menu. And let's move on to band inputs actually. So band inputs, again, you can see the inputs that you assigned to your actions in this menu. But any input you highlight here, you won't be able to assign to an action with code in-game, okay? So basically this allows you to prevent your players from assigning escape by accident or button select and button start as like an input to something by accident or something like that, right? So yeah, if you try and set an input, it'll just, that's in this list, it'll just ignore it. It won't change anything. Same menu, literally same layout. So you got all of this. The order does not matter for band inputs, but it's still in order. So yeah, it's literally the same menu, same design, same everything. All right. So next up, we'll do input details. So you can attach an icon and name to all of your inputs. So for example, if I search for like shift, actually, you can see I've got left shift and right shift. I've changed their names, so they've got a space in the middle, and I've changed the icon. So if I look at button X, for example, you can see I named it controller X, and then I put the icon there. I don't know if you noticed, but this little darkened name is the internal name for the input. So yeah, the name for all of the inputs are their respective key codes, apart from mouse buttons. You know, mouse buttons, since they don't have a key code for some reason, they're, you know, that they are user input type. I don't know why. Probably something to do with the fact that a mouse is actually a different device than a keyboard. So yeah, but anyway, these are all the mouse buttons: mouse button 1, mouse button 2, mouse button 3. You know, you got them here, and obviously I renamed them here as well. Alright, so to insert or to create new details for an input, let's say, because I don't actually have input details for the left super key, I don't know why you would need it, but here we go. So you just press enter, and if the details don't already exist, it'll create them. And then you can click here, it'll pop up in the text box, you click on the text box, and then you type in your ID, and then you press enter, and it will set your icon. You can click away, and it won't set the icon. So if you want to set it, just make sure you press enter. And so here, just going to change the name to like left super with a space in the middle, you know, and when you made your changes, you click save just like the actions. Okay. So I do provide this by default. This is a icon. This is an icon pack by the creators of Move or Die, I believe is the game's name. Really cool icon pack. Love the design, and it's free, so it's very generous, honestly. So yeah, I imported it. Not every button has an image, but I'll let you do that. I've done a lot of I've done a lot of inputs here. It's like over 100, I think, because has so many keyboards have so many buttons. All right. So that's input details. You get to, you know, customize stuff. Pretty cool. Very good for UI design. Adaptive UI design. And right, so next up is the settings menu. So we've got two settings at the time of recording. So we have auto server updates. Basically, if this is true, the system will automatically update any changes you make to any changes you make to like what inputs are assigned to an action. So when you assign a new input to an action, it will send those changes to the server and it will update it. I don't do any data store stuff here. You have to do that yourself, but there are some handy functions to help you do that that I'll cover later in the demonstration. All right, so next is keybind assignment mode. So there are three modes here: free, swap, and remove. Basically, when you try and assign a keybind, excuse me, when you try and assign a keybind that already exists in said action, it will swap it. You can't change that. So if this, for example, was F and this was R, and then I tried to set this to F, then it would swap F and R around. You can't change that default behavior. No, there's no setting for it. Okay. But what this keybind assignment mode does is it changes the behavior of how different actions interact when you try and assign an input that already exists on another action. So basically, if this is F, for example, and this is R, right? And I try to set this to R, then if I'm on free mode, I will be able to set this to R and this will still be R. Okay, so free mode allows you to have multiple inputs. Free mode allows you to have multiple actions bound to the same input. Okay, but if I'm on swap mode, then F and R will swap around between these two actions. And if I'm on remove mode, then it will just replace I already forgot my example, but imagine this is F, imagine this is R. If I tried to set this to R, then R would replace F and this would be left blank. Okay, so that's remove. Now when you're on either swap or remove, then you have the option of like triggering a callback function. So basically, if we look at the documentation here for set action input, the last parameter, or argument rather, is a callback function. So it gets called whenever the swap or remove has to occur, and then basically you can use this to tell your player, hey, this input's already bound to this other action. Do you want to swap? Do you want to cancel? And so if the function returns true, then the input assignment will be cancelled. Nothing changes. If it returns false or nil, the input assignment will continue. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I love the fact that that's a built-in feature. Alright, so that's it for the interface. Okay, I'm going really quick here because last time I did a recording of this, it took half an hour, and I don't want it to be that long. There is a lot of stuff to cover, but I'll try and not rush too much through this, but just enough. So, right, we've got our actions already set up like before, so I've already got the inputs set up and all that, so we don't really need to do anything else with the UI. Yeah, we can just close this. So don't design UI like this, by the way. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So if I make a local script here, what's cool is to make your life easier, I've made a shortcut. So if you look here, if you search for action with an exclamation mark, you get this shortcut action script insert menu. So you set up your shortcut, and when you press it while you're focused on a script, you'll get this little menu. So this basically just inserts lines of code into your script. And so yeah, if I wanted the API, I would just click this and boom, I have all of the functions from the API here. And if I wanted to wait for the API and my actions to load, then I would, press wait for actions. And then if I wanted external events, like for example, there are two events, input began and input ended. They're not tied to any action, they're just whenever you press a button. So this is used for when you want to like for when you want to assign an input, allow the user to just press a button on their device and then assign that as the input for that action. So we'll be using that. We will be using the API, and then obviously you can insert your actions. So if you just want to trigger your actions, you actually don't need to insert the API itself. You just gotta insert, wait for actions, and then your actions themselves. So every action has these events. So began, it's the same as user input service. When a button that is bound to this action is pressed, it will trigger the begin event. And when a button bound to this action is let go, then it will trigger the ended event. Okay, so when you use set action input will trigger input changed, and it will give you two what are they called? Arguments, parameters? The name slips. Anyway, it will tell you the new input, and it will tell you the previous input. Okay, for this action that was just changed, unless you do revert to default. So if you revert an action to its default inputs, it will only trigger this once. It won't trigger this for all of the inputs that were assigned. So yeah. So that's input changed. Input added. This triggers when you use bind to. Honestly, bind to and unbind, I've never used them. I made them. They work, but I don't know if you can find a use case for them. Go ahead. It's yeah. I don't know what to do with them. I mean, it allows you to bind multiple inputs to multiple actions, but it like doesn't guarantee the order. So when you're making a customizable input system, it's not good, it's not great. But I mean, it's there if you can find a use case for it. So input added is triggered by bind to, and input removed is triggered by unbind. Okay, very cool, very cool. So oh my goodness, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I just had lunch, and I'm sorry. Right. Okay. Yeah, this is what I want to get started coding. So, just gonna make a little demonstration. gonna reference all of our buttons, and we're gonna make them do some cool stuff. Alright. Okay, cool. Right. So I'm gonna make a function to update the icons, because we're using image buttons, and well, we've got a lot of icons, so might as well. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to get every single input that is bound. You know what, I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to get every single input that is bound to our action, which I will also define in a variable because we're going to be using this quite often. Alright. So as I mentioned before, every action, every input is a string. So it is represented as a string. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Right, we're going to set the primary buttons image to okay, I'm actually surprised that it knows. Well, oh, that's kind of weird. It knows what I was about to do. I will type it out anyway. So get input info. This gets you the icon and name of whatever input you specify. So we're gonna get input, the input for this action in slot 1, okay? And we're just going to use the icon. And then we're in secondary image equals API. Yeah, alright, so, and then this is going to be the second input. And, oh, whoops, we're going to get the icon, okay? So this is the name and icon that you specified in the input details section, so right here. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's it. So we're going to call update icon straight away because we want to show our default inputs to the user, or to the player straight away. Alright, so next up, when we click on the primary button, I want it to change that keybind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another function that is going to be set input. Okay, and we're going to have, what are we going to pass in? I think we're just going to pass in the index. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. We're going to reference our global input events, so we're going to do this once, and we'll do set input, and then we'll put in our index, so this is for slot 1, okay? Input began, it does tell you the input's ID, again represented as a string. So what I'm going to do is if input is backspace, then we're going to go ahead and, well, close out of this function, but we're also going to, oh, not get, we're going to set the action input at that index or slot to nothing. We're going to set it to nil, okay? So we're going to clear the input when you press backspace. It's like basically, yeah, just clearing the input. Alright, and so if it's not backspace, then we'll just, you know, set the input at this index to the input that we, you know, the button that we pressed. So that's really cool, isn't it? Right, so do the secondary input now, or the second slots. I'll just call this right here. Alright, very cool. Yeah, I don't think I've missed anything. This should work. Right. Now, when the default button is clicked, I want it to revert the keybinds. I want to revert them to the default keybinds. Okay, so pretty cool. Yeah, now, this is cool, this is going to work, it's going to change the buttons and all that, but we're not updating the icons when we do that. So instead of just calling the function in here, because that you can have like the keybind assignment mode be either of these three, we don't really want to add like an if statement to every single function. That wants to, you know, we don't want to add an if statement to the update icons. We don't. Yeah, but there's a better way. Okay, I don't know how to explain it. There's just a better way, right? So, and that will be using an event we covered earlier, which will be input changed. But instead of using instead of using the new input and previous input arguments, we're just gonna update all of the icons all at once. All right. Now, typically in the game, you really won't have more than 2 buttons, so it's not really that big of a deal. The fact that we're updating all of them, even if just one input changes. But remember, this function only triggers this event once. But it doesn't pass in any arguments. So basically, if new input, ooh, that wouldn't work. Okay, never mind then. No, forget that. Alright, so this is our example code. I think this is it, really. Now, of course, you know, we're doing all of this button assignment with this action, but we're not actually doing anything with it. Like, we're not doing anything with the action. So, I don't know, I guess I'll just make it print something in the console. It's like a very basic example. So, action began, connect function. Now it does tell you what input triggered it. So, we'll just print action 1 has been triggered by, and then the input, again, it's a string. And yeah, so that's that. Now I'm gonna do something that you should never do. Never, ever, ever. This is for demonstration purposes. Okay? This is for demonstration purposes. Oh yeah, if you ever wanted to like edit that, it's right there. Okay. 3 matches. Yeah, we've got these here. Okay, right. So, yeah, don't do that. But basically, this is just going to allow me to show you some of the other features, which are really cool. Right. So, honestly, I think that's it. I think we've finished the system. If we load in, we can see our default inputs. So if I press F, triggers action 1. If I press R, triggers action 2. If I boot up my controller and then I press X, you can see it triggers action 1. I press Y, triggers action 2. That's cool and all. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to R. And so now R is triggering both actions at the same time. The reason being is that our keybind assignment mode is currently set to free, so we are allowed to do this. Okay, so I'm going to change this button. I don't know, maybe I'm going to make it J, and then we'll use the select button here just to change this to like B, and then change this to D-pad down. I love the icons, by the way. This is so awesome. So if I press B, it now triggers action 1. If I press D-pad down, it triggers action 2. Wonderful. Okay, and we can revert these to their default keybinds. Okay, very nice, very nice. There's an oversight that I just realized. So basically, let's change our input assignment mode. Okay, let's change it to swap. Okay. Right. Yeah, let's change it to swap. Now at the moment I have no warning function. I did not set up a callback function. I did not set up a UI asking the player if they want to cancel the input assignment or swap it around. So this is just going to swap automatically. If I press R, you can see here, swaps these two around which is really, really cool. I mean, I even could assign this to R as well, and you know, it'll swap these two around, which is not really what I want. So let's just, yeah, do that. There you go. All right. Yeah. Oh, if we click on this and press backspace, you can see our input is cleared. F no longer triggers this action. So very cool. The oversight that I mentioned just a few moments ago is now that we have swap enabled, right? So the default here is R. If I set this to R and then revert this to default, R now triggers both of these actions. So this is, I just realized this. It will probably be fixed soon. I'm not going to re-record, right? I'm gonna release it. It's gonna have this bug, but I'll fix it soon. Okay. Oh, not. What are you doing? No, no, no! Stop! Stop it! Okay, right. So that's cool. That's great. You might think we're done here. No. Okay, if we pop open a server script, I just want to show you how you could, you know, get this data, right? Because all of this is being handled on the client. So how do you, you know, get that data for saving it, for example? So if I do the keybind again, the shortcut, we can go ahead and insert the API. Now on server scripts, the API is different. So we have only 4 functions, and this one is server only, which is loading the actions for a specific player. So what you can do to get that data, you just compile server actions, get your player, and well, yeah, there you go. You have the entire list of actions with all of their inputs assigned in order. That's it. That's it. You take this table, right? You take this table of actions, you save it in the data store, and then say you want to load it. Okay then, so just do load actions. Again, we'll get our player. Okay, and then we'll just put in the actions. That's it. That's how you save and load your player's keybind settings, which I think is amazing. But I may be blind because I made it, so yeah. Anyway, I'm going to show you this data. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it wait like 5 seconds, and I'm going to make it print this data. Okay, I'm going to make it print this data right here. Okay, and don't even talk about it. Do not even talk about this. Okay. It bugs me that people say it's more optimal. They're just used. Alright, fine. Fine. This has a different use case than this. If you want to wait 5 seconds without throttling, you use this, alright? If you want to wait 5 seconds with throttling, maybe you're expecting the, you know, the CPU to be busy, so you actually want to, you know, give it more time as it lags, then you can use this. So it'll throttle. Now, loading an entire server is quite a demanding task, so I want it to throttle, just to give the CPU a little bit more time. Even though I did say 5 seconds, I'm just going to give it a little bit more time to load. I'll let it throttle. Hit my half-an-hour mark. Anyway, we're gonna hit play. We're gonna go ahead and assign our inputs. So I'm gonna just swap these two around. I'm gonna wait until we get our oh yeah, I made a mistake. you should also wait for the API to load. That's another thing. Okay. Oh, just in time. Alright, and then I'll revert these back to default. And then we'll make a print again. Okay, so if we look at the data now, you can see action 1 bound to R and button X, which it was. And then action 2 was bound to F and button Y, which it was. And then when I changed it, a few seconds later, we have action 1's bound to F instead of R. And then action 2 is bound to R instead of F. So it does save the data automatically. As soon as you make this change, that data is sent to the server. So yeah, that is the entire system. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a paid plugin. I hope it helps you as much as it will help me. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. There is something I'd like to mention. Whenever this plugin updates, it doesn't have a notification to tell you, hey, the plugin's out of date. I will introduce that sometime later, like some other time. But whenever the plugin does update and it's like a code change with the API or something, you just click deploy and it will update it. It will keep your changes. You just click deploy and it will update your code. All right. Or, well, it will update the API. So, cool. All right. Hope you like it. And have a good day.